Hey, my name is Stephen Q-Beatz, if you don't already know. I'm originally from New York, but I've been living in South Florida for most of my life. I'm a producer, programmer, aka beat maker, songwriter, artist, engineer, pretty much do everything. Some of my credits include Chris Brown, City Girls, YNW Melly, Missy Elliott, Trina, Mary J. Blige, Ludacris, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including a lot of my own songs and instrumental albums that I've released and independent artists I've produced for. I've done some sync licensing with some of my songs and instrumentals on a bunch of movies and TV shows. A lot of my inspirations and influences come from a wide variety of different genres. I really love 80s music, 80s synth pop, 80s R&B. I'm also a really big fan of Memphis rap, as you can see by my shirt. 90s R&B, 90s hip hop, boom bap. I started making beats kind of by accident. This is back in 1998, 1999. I was kind of just messing around with really primitive voice recorder type program. I would record my voice, reverse it, do stupid things like that, you know? And then I would try to like speak in reverse and then reverse that to see if it sounded normal. I used to do like stupid stuff like that, and then that progressed into just taking little snippets of existing songs and put like vocals from another song over a beat from another song. I guess trying to do blends and mixes. I was using a program at the time called Compact Wave Maker. All my stuff at that point was really low quality, which I guess gave it its own sound. My computer just wasn't fast enough to handle 44 kilohertz. Then from there I started sampling, teaching myself how to sample. I would take drums from records that my brother gave me, saving snares and kicks and things from different sources and making my own little kits. So I would teach myself how to chop and quantize within this program. I had to figure out decimal points because there was no bars and beats grid. So I would just copy and paste hi-hats, and then I would take a kick sample and then copy that and paste that and just make patterns that way. So all destructive editing, copying and pasting drum sounds on top of each other to make a beat. And then once I had like a beat pattern, then I would chop and quantize a melody sample. At that point, I was either sampling other records or stuff from CDs, or I would literally have a microphone that I would hold up to the TV and then just keep flipping the stations and see if I can find any cool stuff to chop up. So I was doing this from 99 till about 2003, and it was really just me just having fun. I wasn't like serious about it yet, but at the time it was just really cool, really fun to do. I'm in high school, there was only maybe 3 or 4 other people who were making beats. I mean, nowadays everybody makes beats. But at the time it was maybe it was more rare, I guess. I don't know. I also had a Yamaha DJ-X keyboard that I used to record little melodies and sounds from that I would also use in my beats. Producers versus beat makers. Well, I consider myself both a producer and a beat maker. A lot of my biggest credits are actually me getting programming and songwriting credit, not really as producer. Now, programmer is the professional term for beat maker. So whenever you see the word programmer in the credits, just know that that is the beat maker. So in my opinion, I don't know if everybody's going to agree with this, but I think all beat makers are producers because they're contributing to the overall song. Maybe those beat makers aren't in the studio with the artist per se, guiding them through the song and getting the best takes and all that, but they're still contributing to what the final product is going to be. That beat is important. I know some producers don't consider beat makers producers, but I just think that that's kind of like an ego thing. But hey, whatever, that's my opinion. Now, not all producers are beat makers, because there are some producers who don't make beats, but they know how to put together a song. They know how to get the right producers and programmers and musicians and songwriters in the room and create something special. And yeah, I think nowadays most producers are beat makers, but yeah, there's still some that don't make any beats and they just get somebody to do it for them. Or they collaborate, co-produce. What makes my sounds unique? I've been told that my drums hit pretty hard. My sound design techniques are unique. I make a lot of my own 808s from scratch, just from either sine waves or just recording anything and just turning it into something that hits hard. I think what makes someone unique is having those sounds that nobody else has. In my beats, you'll sometimes hear little vocal snippets or little like weird little things in the background. All that stuff matters because that's like you know? That's what makes you unique. little vocal things. Like I didn't grab that from a pack, like a drum kit online. I record a lot of my own stuff. I mean, yeah, I use other people's stuff too, but I have a lot of my own go-to sounds that I'm proud to say that I created from scratch or I recorded myself. Like I'll still use like some of my old programs I used to use. I'll still go back and use Cool Edit Pro to edit and to process my drums. I'll use cassette tapes, anything that can mimic like an old school sampler to like have like that bit crushy type of sound. Also, one of my things is quantizing. It's like chopping samples and quantizing. That's one of my specialties. I can take any sound, any sample, chop it up, put it perfectly on grid, and nowadays you could just press one button and it quantizes things for you. But the way that I learned was I had to do all that stuff manually. I had to do manual time stretching, and like even in Cool Edit Pro, when I was chopping samples in there, and I still chop samples in there too because it gives it a different feel. But when I chop samples in there, I would go by like every 8th note or sometimes even 16th note, time stretch to put it like perfectly in time. Another thing I like doing is changing the time signature. Like let's say a sample was in 3/4, I'll chop it and make it into a 4/4 or vice versa. I mean, yeah, there's some tracks where I'll just, it sounds good and I'll just loop the sample, but at least I'll pitch it up or down or whatever. Another thing that's crazy is that nowadays we have stem separation. You can grab the drums or the music or the vocal from anything. But before we had that, I was using Cool Edit Pro to take like an instrumental and the full version and do a phase inversion to isolate drums or vocals. It's crazy what the technology of today allows you to do, because man, that's the kind of shit I used to have to do. When it comes to mixing, one of my philosophies is know your environment. Listen to records that are mixed really well and get to know your room. No matter what speakers you have, it doesn't matter. In my home studio, I have no soundproofing. Not to say that it doesn't matter. Of course, probably will help, but what I'm saying is if you get to know your environment and like really work hard, you don't need crazy soundproofing, and you don't even need crazy studio monitors. To be honest, I mix most of my stuff on crappy computer speakers on purpose, and then I go and reference on studio monitors. But yeah, I mix on shitty speakers. If it sounds good on those, it's going to sound good everywhere else. I don't necessarily recommend that to everybody, but this is how I do it. You really have to get to know your environment and get to know whatever speakers you're using in order to be able to pull something like that off. But I've been doing this for, like I said, since 99. Also, oscilloscopes really help me out, because that's how I learned too. I learned making beats from looking at waveforms. So I apply that knowledge to my mixing and also my production too. When I'm making a beat, I know that kick drum and that 808 is going to work just by how it looks on the oscilloscope. I can see if there's any phase issues or anything that needs to be corrected. And most of the time, if it doesn't look right, it's not going to sound right. I guarantee it. I'm not really the best musician as far as like being able to play keyboard or being able to play a guitar or anything like that. But I know what I want to hear in my head, and I know how to get it into the computer. Even if I have to cheat my way, I'll get it in there. I suck at bass and guitar, but I'll play 2 notes at a time and edit it. So my editing skills will make it seem like I can kind of play a little bit. And I'm good with MIDI programming, so I really like going around with my digital recorder and recording like random sound effects and random noises and things to put in my beats. I'll make my own percussion sounds and my own snares and things just from things that I record, either outside or banging on stuff in the kitchen or whatever. That to me is a lot of fun, and it gives you your own sound because nobody else is going to have those exact sounds. I have a lot of instrumental projects currently out. I have my Since the Beginning series. I'm actually working on part 5 right now. I have my Lost in New York series, which I have 3 of those. And I have my Miami to Memphis series. I have 2 of those out now, and I'm working on a 3rd one for 2024 sometime. I also have a chiptune NES 8-bit video game album out called This Is Not a Game. And I have another album that's a kind of more of an experimental, weird thing called Atmospheric Realms, which is like really weird textures, and I don't even know how to describe it. And I have a bunch of songs that I've released as an artist where I'm rapping and singing. And when it comes to my own stuff that I write and perform, I like to try to do different kinds of flows, and I'm really into like multi-syllable rhymes and anything with a good melody, good rhythm. That's the kind of stuff I like to put out. Yeah, for this year, like I said, I'm currently mixing Since the Beginning Part 5 right now, so look out for that. I'm also gonna start mixing Miami to Memphis Part 3 sometime after that. And I have enough material for a Since the Beginning 6 and beyond, actually, at this point. And same thing with Miami to Memphis series. I have a ton of I have a ton of those kind of beats, so stay tuned for more of that. And I want to put out some more songs with my vocals on them this year as well, whether I'm rapping, singing, or whatever. Probably random beats. It could be some 80s stuff, it could be some trap stuff, some Memphis sounding stuff. We'll see. I have a lot of stuff planned. I'm also continuing to collaborate with my production team, QST, my brother Adam Scott, and just basically whatever I feel like putting out. Oh, and stay tuned for some more music production and engineering tutorials. I'll probably do some more beat breakdowns and song breakdowns, and I want to put out some more videos and things too. Videos or visuals for all my projects. That's one of my plans. Tips for upcoming producers and artists. Producers, it's good to have your tracks fit in with what's going on. That's important, but also keep in mind that you want to create your own signature sound as well. So it could be like I was saying earlier, putting in like a little vocal thing or a little something that you created from scratch yourself that could be unique to you, so people can recognize it. It could be anything really. Just be creative and think of something dope. And really don't copycat too much. I know sometimes it's hard, like, you know, you hear like a dope beat and you're like, oh man, I want to make something like that. But you could draw inspiration from something without ripping somebody off, you know. You know what I mean? And artists, I think it's important to understand a little bit about engineering, knowing how to get your ideas out and record yourself. You can get an inexpensive microphone, an inexpensive audio interface. You know, you can really use any DAW, whatever. Like, as long as you're able to record and just to get your ideas out there, do it. Learn how to do it, man. Other interests besides music? Well, besides music, it's always been video games for me. I grew up playing, you know, NES and Sega Genesis, some TurboGrafx, a lot of PC and DOS games. And really, that's probably one of my biggest inspirations in music, because when I first started, I would sample a lot of video game music. And even now, I've been recording a lot of my gameplays and speedrunning some of my favorite NES games. So that's just like a fun side thing that I like doing. Some of my favorite gear and hardware stuff that I use. Well, behind me you could, behind me over here. That's a Korg M3. I love that keyboard. I actually have all 4 of the Yamaha Reface series keyboards. I have a few of the Roland Boutiques. I have this old school sampler style thing called the Micro Granny. I love running sounds through there. Like, I'll take some of my original melodies, degrading the quality, make it sound like a sample. The Korg Volca modular and the FM, really dope. And this chordbot thing is really cool too. Can't forget the Casio. As far as the DAWs I'm using, I mainly work in FL Studio to do most of my programming and production. Sometimes I'll only have like an 8-bar or 16-bar loop in there, then I'll sequence it out in Pro Tools. And then there's other times when I do my entire arrangement in FL Studio. But it always ends up at Pro Tools when it comes time for mixing. I still prefer to mix in Pro Tools. I mean, I'll do my rough mixes in FL Studio, but I like to do my final mixing and mastering in Pro Tools. And like I said earlier, I still use Cool Edit Pro for chopping samples and editing drum sounds, doing some quantizing, and I just feel like Cool Edit Pro's wave editor is still the best till this day. Logic Pro is good too. I'm starting to use it a little bit more again for certain things. There's some good stock plugins in Logic, so once in a while I'll use that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Stay tuned for more music, more songs, more collaborations, more everything, man. More video game playthroughs. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also YouTube. You can find all my music that I've released so far on all platforms. Just type in Steven Q-Beatz, STEVEN Q-BEATZ. Stay tuned for more.